What's going on, people? It's your boy Travis, Horror Movies Uncut. We are back. Episode number 38, Submissions and Slashers, the podcast. Yes, what's going on, people? So happy to see you and want to wish a very, very happy birthday to one of the dear friends of Horror Movies Uncut, one of the original writers of HMU, Miss Stacy Valdez. Happy birthday out there, lady. Go follow her new platforms that she's on. She's doing fantastic stuff with Avoid the Fainting blog spot and everything. And hopefully we'll get a chance to connect with her again pretty soon. I hope you guys are doing amazing. It is Wednesday and welcome to February 1st. Kicking this podcast off a couple days later than I want to because I was trying my hardest to see as many films as I could over the weekend. There was just a lot to see, a lot of stuff to see at home, and a lot of stuff to see in the theaters. So try to make sure I got a chance to taste as much as I possibly could to give you guys a straightforward podcast. I can't wait to talk to you guys about all the stuff that I got a chance to see and some of the stuff that's bubbling in the news in the genre industry. As always, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're on our YouTube page, or follow us on all of our social media platforms. That's at HMUNUCUT, Human Cut, at HMUNUCUT, Human Cut. Follow us on those platforms. Make sure you got us locked in TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, Twitter. All right, folks, episode number 38. Here is the rundown. So we're going to be talking about the lovely Miss Mia Goth. So very, very happy to see that she is out putting herself in as many roles as possible. And it was great to hear her kind of speak a little bit about what's going on at the Oscars. So she's screaming at the screen is what I like to say. And if anything has to do with the Oscars, a lot of people were questioning why there was not a bigger influence of genre or horror films in there. And it asked the question, did we get snubbed? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. The homegirl Jill Six has got a new movie that she's working on. We posted a little blurb about it the other day on the website. Don't forget to follow us on that website. That's the home base for everything we do at HMUNCUT.com, Horror Movies Uncut. That's where you find us. We got a review for Infinity Pool. That's one of the films that I had a chance to see. We got a review for They Wait in the Dark, which is a film that I got a chance to watch that's going to be hitting theaters and on demand this weekend. And also Baby Ruby, which is a film that I know a lot of people are excited about, that's going to be hitting the on-demand and limited theater market this weekend as well. So, hey, I told you guys last week, Last of Us, right? Up till now, what's going on? What are my thoughts? I'm going to give you guys a little rundown on that. I do unfortunately want to touch base on the Memphis situation. The funeral for Tyree Nichols is going on today. It's actually going to be happening in the next couple of hours. It's a very, very sad day for America once again, when a young man has been taken away from his family and his loved ones by violent means that just really have no place in this earth, no place in this universe. So I just want to touch base in light on how like films that we watch can be like very impactful in times like this, and how times like this have also created so many films that have been impactful for people's lives. So I'm going to touch a little bit on that. I'm not going to dig too deep into it because it's a strong topic. And, you know, I'm trying to keep that good flow, that good vibe rolling through the podcast. I am so happy you're joining us on this Wednesday, February the 1st. Once again, I am Travis. I'm going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on at the Oscars and did we really get snubbed, and then dip into Jill Six's new movie as well. Don't you go anywhere. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We will be right back. Episode 38, Submissions and Slashers, podcast. All right, people, welcome back to episode number 38, Submissions and Slashers podcast. I'm your host, Travis, from the illustrious family known as Horror Movies Uncut. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Oscars, and it's going to be from an angle that I found very intriguing. Because some people were talking to Mia Goth. If you don't know who Mia Goth is, she's been making a lot of noise recently in films such as X and Pearl, and she's in Infinity Pool, which is the new Brandon Cronenberg film that just came out. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later in the podcast. And one of the things that she was talking about is how, you know, she feels horror films are being snubbed, or that films like Nope and X and Pearl should get more, I guess, appreciation from the community. So if I was to come out and say my first initial reaction to that is, I've always, as long as I've been covering genre films, the general public, you cannot pay attention really to anything they have to, you know, to when they put something in front of us that they deem is amazing. I mean, you talk to most of the people at your job, they haven't seen any of the films that are nominated, right? So then when it comes to, like, should it be a horror film or a sci-fi film or action film, the crazy thing is most of the times, most of the people have seen those films, right? So it would lend to the agreement that, yeah, maybe we should have more genre films as your award nominations or winner of awards, correct? But I think we need to look at the nominations a little bit deeper, and I think you will see that usually there is something that falls along the lines of the films that we hold dear to our heart that we can see right here in these nominations, right? So then the question is are we really getting snubbed? I'm gonna instantly say, no, we're not. While yes, when you look at this list of films, there's nothing in there that's gonna be like straight up hardcore horror. But I feel like there's so many things that you can look at and say, hey, that was a film that I saw either at a film festival, or it's a film that I saw at a friend's house or at the local theater that everyone was talking about that I need to see. And it might have been the strangest movie I've ever watched in my life. Like, horror fans, I think you have love for these films too. So 2 films that stick out to me right off the bat, of course, is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, which I think is just gonna probably sweep, you know. And let's remember, think Parasite, right? Like, Parasite, I think, is probably one of the last true examples of what I'm trying to say. Like, the genre film that the horror movie community probably knew of way faster than the water cooler community, right? But then once it hit that water cooler, boom, explosion everywhere. This year, it was this film, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. You have to practice saying that so many times. You still are terrified to say it. So, Michelle Yeoh and everyone doing their thing. No problem, right? When you look at other films that are out there, I look at films like Tar, Cate Blanchett, very, very dark tones to the film. The Whale, while, you know, once again, not necessarily a sci-fi or a horror film. You know, genre films are more, you know, artists, I guess, styled films. And then The Banshees of Inisherin. I mean, just those films by themselves, I think they lend to an audience that would also appreciate seeing Terrifier 2 on this list, or Pearl, or X. And while, yes, it is true that there does need to be a little bit more appreciation, because horror movies, we fucking carry the industry. Every single weekend, every single week, regardless if it's VOD, DVD, or in the theaters, you know there's going to be anywhere between 3 to 7 horror or genre films coming out every single week. We carry the industry. You know what I mean? We are that stripper in the club that got the right tits, the right BBS, and regardless if it's 3 degrees outside in the middle of February, table packed, son. I'm fucking retarded. I don't know who lets me do this stuff. Okay, so anyway, and excuse me for saying that. I'm mentally challenged. I'm trying to be more in 2023, trying to catch myself when I do stuff like that. So anyway, that's what I think. I don't think we necessarily got snubbed. I think we need to appreciate the fact that we have films like The Banshees of Inisherin, Whale, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. You need to appreciate that these films are getting the recognition that they do, especially because Michelle Yeoh and them are gonna just, it's like Ghost Ship, that entry scene, just the wire goes across the body and cuts everybody in half. If you know me, I bring up Ghost Ship at least once a year, every year. All right? So, Jill 6, what up, KC? Right up Highway 70 behind me. That's my homegirl. You guys know her. She came out with the film The Stylist. Got a lot of Newcomer of the Year awards. Been blessed on so many female-driven sites and so many female-driven festivals. And available for you to watch on the great outlets of Shudder and things of that nature, and still getting love, still getting play everywhere with the beautiful ladies like Nahara Townsend and my new homie, Miss Bree Grant. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just so much to talk about with Jill, and this just like explosion from when I first met her in Chicago when she was out promoting Call Girl, her, single short film, to now working on her latest and second feature film. And I posted something on the website. Make sure you go over there and check it out. It's a real quick read, like they all are. We don't keep you guys there long. That's why we want you guys to check us out, because we're not keeping you there long. We know you like to look at stuff, though. We're curious to what she's got up her sleeve. We know she's around the East Coast, outside of Baltimore area somewhere with this filming, so tends to think gray tones and wilderness, right? Like monsters, maybe. Like, let's go. Who knows? I could come up with 50 million ideas, but that's why everybody's yelling at me to hurry up and come up with my shit. But we're super excited for Jill. She's working with Eduardo Sanchez, G, gangster, legend. If you don't know that name, that is the Blair Witch Project people. Remember Blair Witch, that movie that some deemed as what kind of separated film from found footage films. She's also going to be working with the writing talents of Adam Cesar and Jamie Nash from the VHS franchise is going to be joining along to help produce the film. So, great team being assembled right there. A lot of great names. So, it's very exciting. You know what I mean? I'm like getting chills. I'm happy for her. That's the homie. I can't wait to see her. I know she's super excited. Kansas City Chiefs making their way back to the Super Bowl. She's been at every game. She's been repping her KC pride as much as possible, and God love her for it, man. I'm a Steelers fan, so I ain't gonna never have no love for that KC life. I just love Kansas City. That's my second home for sure. But Super excited to see what Jill 6 and the crew are bringing to us. Super excited to have you guys come back. Don't you go anywhere. Episode 38 of the Submissions and Slashers podcast. We got a Infinity Pool review coming up for you when we come back. Don't go nowhere. All right, folks, welcome back to episode 38, Submissions and Slashers podcast. I am your host, Travis, Horror Movies Uncut. If you are watching on the podcast, remember, so you got options now. So you can watch on YouTube, and if you subscribe to us on Spotify, you can watch us on Spotify. So that means you can watch me on TV. Not that you necessarily need to, because I'm in the comforts of the Batcave, so it's nothing special to look at. But what I wanted to address is there might be days where you may see me start in one outfit area and end up in another outfit area. And that's primarily due to the flow of my clients or the flow of my day. When I have the podcast to do, I try to have a 3-hour chunk of the day available to do it, even though it's only about an hour or so of recording, but the editing, all that other stuff takes so much time. There's no 3 hours in my days usually, unless I'm able to do it on a Sunday or something. So if you are watching this and you get to another portion of the podcast and I am wearing another outfit and I am in my gym and you see workout equipment behind me, please don't be alarmed. That is just me changing situations. The only thing I gotta make sure is that sound is the way it needs to be, right? All right, so anyway, Infinity Pool review, let's go. 2.5 out of 5 stars. Why would I do 2.5 out of 5 stars? Okay, so Brandon Cronenberg, I'm a really, really big fan of Brandon Cronenberg. Antiviral was fantastic. It is still to this day one of my favorite horror movies within the last 15, 20 years or so, okay? I'm a huge fan of body horror if it's done sexy. So the Cronenberg family, his father, their films have always kind of intrigued me on where they get, Canadian people, y'all are just freaks, man. I just put that out there. That's all I can think. But when it comes to Infinity Pool, of course, after seeing his other and previous films, I was super excited. Mia Goth, Alexander Skarsgård, so many beautiful people in the film. The story from the trailer, instantly I was like, I really don't know what's going on here. If you guys know how I talk, it's usually, I don't know, what we doing here? What we got going on? What we doing? Because it seemed as if the story just kind of follows a guy who's hanging out with people who are a little richer than him, a little bit more successful than him, a little bit more influenced than him, and they're making fun of him. But you do find out that there's so much more. You find out that Alex Skarsgård's character is a writer, and he and his beautiful wife, who is played by, give me 1 second, I have too many things up. Cleopatra Coleman. Yes, she rocks. I would be looking for everything she does. Great person to see, and very talented. She killed it in the film, as did everybody else. Okay, and then opposite of Mia Goth is Jaleel Lespert, which I've seen Jaleel in some things as well, and he's fucking amazing also. So just a great, talented group of people. And the film follows Alex, who's a writer. He's with his wife, who's of course the breadwinner of the family, and they're in this illustrious trip that's kind of winding down, and they're just at their end. And you can tell that there's some strains going on possibly with the marriage, and he's looking for inspiration, and that's the whole purpose of the trip. He doesn't find it until Mia Goth shows up. And Mia Goth not only gives inspiration, but Mia Goth is like a flame of red hot riplet, gasoline sauce of inspiration, because the entire time, not only does she grab him, She grabs you, the person who's watching the film, and you are dragged along with her. Now, there is some good and there is some bad with that. A lot of it has to do with what I talked about at the very beginning of the podcast, with the bad kind of being, you get to a point where you're like, woman, will you stop screaming at me? Like, I did not do anything to you. But you see how it plays into her character. So I was talking to a friend and I'm like, my only issue with this is, like, I feel like we're getting a little bit too close to the Firefly clan. Like, and I got love, probably way more love than many people do for Sherry Moon Zombie. But I also am in that very, very long line of people who just can't stand her laughing, very loud, very hysterical Firefly character, you know? So when I see someone who I feel has possibly more range, I don't know, in Mia Goth, I'm expecting her not to get too close to that. And she did, like, plenty of times where it kind of got annoying. And I'm like, okay, I get it. You're the sadistic, crazy girl who would probably have a knife and swing her head from side to side. Like, we get it. Like, what else are you? And she does show so much more, which is why, at the end of the day, she's the most fascinating character in the film. Story-wise, where they drag you into, if you're familiar with DC Comics, you'll get an understanding of a lot of the tropes they got going on. It's a film about chances, second chances, multiple chances, but really it's a film about privilege. And that's just this underlying thing about Cronenberg's films that I cannot get past. And I feel like his father was the same way. For some reason, I don't think they like rich people because they're always finding a way to show those one percenters, that elitist extreme, in the most vile ways possible, whether it's through behavior or through something terrifying happening to them. Go back to the body horror stuff that I was talking about earlier. But closing thoughts on the film for Infinity Pool, I got it pretty soon and didn't really want anything else to do with it too much more after. So luckily it wasn't that long. I think it's an hour and 42 minutes. Shot beautifully, shot exactly how you would think a Cronenberg film would be. If you're a person that's never seen any of Brandon's films, if you like Infinity Pool, I would definitely tell you to check out his other films, especially Antiviral. But I don't know. I think I wanted to like Infinity Pool a lot more. There's too much Firefly clan, too much purge, too much just regurgitation. And that does not speak well, once again, for a film going into 2023. So I didn't get a chance to see Fear. I will see it whenever it gets out, and I'll for sure tell people my thoughts when it gets to the home demand. I might get a chance still to go see it sometime in the theaters this week, but I'm not sure. But Infinity Pool, I wanted to like a little bit more. 2.5 out of 5, once again, is what we gave it, which means check it out. Especially if you're a Cronenberg fan, you should go see it. It's not as gory as I was expecting it to be. It's smart in a lot of ways. I think there was a punch, a oomph I was looking for in the film that just never showed up. And I think that's what kind of hurt me overall in Infinity Pool. Still worth seeing. It's available in theaters everywhere. Go check it out for sure. Make sure you gotta go see Mia Goth's performance. Alex, great to see him. And if people are like, who's this Alex Skarsgård? It's the guy from True Blood, the blonde hair guy from True Blood. I can't remember what his name was. But Eric, I think it was Eric. Yeah, him. Get him and Spike confused in my head all the time because they're the same people. Anyway, I will be back probably with a different outfit on the next time you see me, but we're going to return when we come back. Episode 38, Submissions and Slashers podcast. We're going to talk about that show that everybody's watching on HBO Max right now, Last of Us, which just had an episode this past Sunday that I saw a couple people who I even look up to as writers and filmmakers that are saying that this last episode might have been some of the best television they've ever seen. So we'll talk about it. The Last of Us when we come back. Don't go anywhere. All right, people, welcome back to Submissions and Slashers. Once again, Travis from the illustrious family known as Horror Movies Uncut. If you're watching the podcast, as mentioned earlier, I might be in a different setting with a different outfit, but I still actually have the same outfit on. I'm just in a different setting. I thought I was going to be able to get a workout in, but I haven't had a chance to yet. So looks like I'll be doing that when I'm done with the podcast, which is great. But if the sound is also a little different, I do apologize. That is because I am in a more open spaced environment than previous. So I'll try to make sure to manage the sound so it's not too much of a difference when you're hearing the final version. But what we were talking about is actually something I just finished talking about with one of my clients here in the gym, which is the new series, The Last of Us. So, general breakdown of The Last of Us. If you're not familiar with what The Last of Us is, it is a new television show that has been created and developed for HBO Max, and it is based off of an award-winning video game that was on the PlayStation console. Now, Xbox people, where you at? I know you probably remember, a lot of us, we were like, what's all this Last of Us stuff that people are talking about? And there were a couple games, Evil Within, which is still kind of going on, and some other that were similar to it, but hearing the reviews, hearing all the stuff that we were reading during that time frame of the video game being released, it was just uncomparable. Well, about half a year after the game was released, I finally got a chance to sit down and play The Last of Us. Now, my son actually has a PlayStation. I have an Xbox, but now actually he has an Xbox too. It's kind of weird. That's a story for another day. But I got a chance to play The Last of Us. And from what I remember, it was only one night that I got a chance to actually play it. Very, very slow, narrative-driven game that while a lot of stuff can be frightening, really the attention to details of the story, dialogue, the acting, you could tell that they really wanted this to be more than just a game, almost an entire movie, and that's what it felt like when you were playing the game. So it's very fitting to see that they would turn this into a show, okay? I had been thinking for years that we would see a Last of Us movie being developed, and I believe that there is some talks that still could happen, but I'm sure seeing the general response from the initial 3 episodes is really probably feeling great for HBO and all the parties included, because they've completely grabbed a winner. One of the most watched series since the House of Dragon debut on HBO, and I'm not a Game of Thrones homie, so I didn't watch that, and I definitely watched The Last of Us. Now, I didn't watch it on the premiere, which was super huge, but I've caught up to this point, and that's what we're talking about. So, not to spend too much time on this, because I feel like with something that's still going on, we're waiting on a new episode to come this Sunday. We're just really kind of talking about where we are up to now and what could possibly be happening in the latter portions of the episodes. We do find our main character, our main protagonist in the story is a man who has lost his daughter, and years down the line, him and another survivalist woman have been given this task to get this young lady to a facility, okay? Now, there's also various intentions for other people, and I'm sorry if you've not watched this, you might want to stop this because there is going to be spoilers to some extent on here. It's a very, very well thought out, very timely placed show. there's some genius work done in the very, very initial episodes in regards to really allowing the viewer to see the world that we're currently living in and how it can quickly turn into something that we see on the show. I think that's something that a lot of writers and filmmakers have been able to really just dig into since the pandemic. So I was not surprised to see the levels of what they were accomplishing on the show and how it's hitting the home base and the home viewing audience. The cast themselves are fantastic. If we were to just kind of talk about a couple of the cast members, Pedro Pascal, who plays Joel. I'm trying to remember what was one of the first things I saw him in. Isn't he the original Sonic the Hedgehog guy? Like the bad guy? He was in The Mandalorian, yep. And the Book of Boba Fett, of course, yep. He was in Wonder Woman, a lot of stuff. He was even in one of those little episodes of Community. So Pascal's been around for a minute. Pedro's been around for a minute. The young lady who is kind of the focal point of the show and what everyone is revolving around, Ellie Williams, is played by Bella Ramsey. And then you get a cast of just these characters kind of similar to The Walking Dead that just kind of start showing up in this world. Dr. Newman is John Hannah, which I think a lot of people are going to recognize his name through and through, even though he only has small time on the show. And from one of the things you will notice if you do go to their IMDb page, you will see that like there is an abundance of cast members that are making just one episode appearances that really lead to the idea of these like chapters that are going to be involved in The Last of Us. And I think this last episode is probably the best indication. I mean, The Walking Dead, like the only problem that The Last of Us is ever going to have, and if you understand, I think it's not too hard to understand me when I say this. The only problem that they're ever going to have is that The Walking Dead came out before. Because almost every single exciting thing that they could do, there is some type of correlation based off of just end of the world dynamics that could always tie it in. But you can do that with so much stuff. So how they deal with these chapters and these appearances and these characters and how they relate to the overall mission that's being involved, I think is going to be what really helps or makes or breaks the show. If Sunday's episode was any indication, it's going to be fine. I really enjoyed it. Like most people, as the episode started, I was kind of like doing my normal, what are we doing here? Where are we going? Why are these people in this? This has nothing to do with them. All of a sudden, these people are part of the show. Why are we focusing in on these people? And then once you start to see how the puzzles of the I was about to say it even worse. The pieces of the puzzle, once you start to see how they start to lay into the episode, then you get it. And you're like, oh, okay, I see what you guys are doing here. And don't mean to sound like an asshole, but it is something that has been done in all the catalogs of the Walking Dead series, from Fear to the regular to so on and so on. I don't even know where they are now. They got so many Walking Deads out there. There's a whole damn channel on AMC Plus dedicated to the Walking Dead. So they clearly have enough content out there. Still trying to figure out how Daryl gets to France. I need to see that, So, The Last of Us is a show that I think is going to have a lot of intriguing chapters that are going to keep the audience engaged. But how these chapters complete the overall story is either going to turn people away from it, where they're going to be like, I don't even know what's going on. I mean, look, if I was to give any advice to any filmmakers, TV shows, get the point across before you try to go over people's heads, okay? Or they are not going to watch your show. It is great to be that one filmmaker, that one director that made that, thing that everybody's like, oh man, no one Like, it's so smart. It's ahead of its time. Nobody's watching that stuff these days, okay? Like, get to it, you know? And that's what I hope this show does, is it gets to a point where it makes you want to see a following season and so on and so on, that possibly could eventually lead to a movie, and for all we know, could possibly lead to them restarting up the video game franchise. I was actually surprised we haven't seen more from the video game franchise because the first one did so well. But like I said, it takes me back to my initial thoughts of playing the game at first. This was never intended to be a game. This is intended to be exactly what we're seeing on HBO Max every Sunday, okay? So what we're gonna do is let a couple more episodes flow, and then we'll come back and we'll give an update to that point on The Last of Us. But hopefully you guys are watching it. I love to hear your feedback. I love talking with my clients all day about it because they're definitely enjoying the show too. And there's not a lot of creepy stuff that I get to enjoy with my clients. So enjoying that big time. All right, people. So when we come back, we're gonna quickly talk about just this dire situation that's going on in Memphis and how movies can be impactful and can kind of also help people get out of some of these situations. And then after that, we'll jump into a review for They Wait in the Dark. So don't you go anywhere. We got 2 more segments coming up. Episode number 38, Submissions and Slashers. Make sure you follow us at HMUNCUT. Don't go anywhere. Folks, welcome back to Submissions and Slashers, episode 38. And now we are talking about probably one of the more difficult things to talk about. But I feel like when you start something like a podcast, or you're a writer, or you're trying to be in the public eye, whether it's through vlogging, sports, whatever it is you do, if you're looking for attention from people, you better be willing to talk about some stuff that might be a little uneasy for even the people who love you. And I have no problem talking about that, because the people who love me, they know that I'm very passionate about every single thing that I do. And while it may cause a couple followers to go away, you might lose a couple people, it's the people that you keep, or the people that you know are your people. That's your tribe, as people like to say. And that's all you should be ever focused on, because those other people weren't going to be with you till the end anyway, you know? And as a young black man growing up in America, you find out very fast who your people are, and then you also find out really fast who aren't your people. And as a young black man growing up in St. Louis, Missouri, I found out very fast the police are not my people. And right now, at the age of 43, I have over 6 to 7 relationships with police officers from my city. Help them through some fitness goals, help them through some combat sports goals. Like I outfitted the St. Louis City SWAT team with Lululemon gear for a competition they were in. So I feel like even though I'm a child of racial prejudice and stereotyping and physical violence from a police officer growing up, it did not deter me from wanting to still help my community and work with police officers in the future. And that's why things like what happened down in Memphis are completely sad, because in my community, it's already difficult enough for a young black man or a woman to even be anywhere associated with the police. I mean, I even know brothers and sisters who are just EMTs that people think that they're cops, and they treat them like shit in our community. And it's something that is warranted and understandable. And I feel it's something that even people from other races might not truly understand. There is a lot of hate for dark-skinned, brown-skinned people towards the oppressors that we know as police officers. And it really sucks, because at the end of the day, regardless of the uniform, they're people just like you and I. They're people going through problems, they're people going through anxieties, they're people going through issues. And that's why there's a lot of smart people out there saying maybe people shouldn't be cops, especially because they're walking around with loaded weapons, with tasers and things like that can do harm. Now, the video that was released about Tyree, who I just want to really just give a moment to say, to his parents and everything, that as a parent myself of a young African American, soon to be 18 plus year old, like I can only like imagine the terribleness of losing and what you guys have been through. And I'm hoping you stay strong, and I'm hoping your family and your community and the rest of us, we're all supporting you guys and making sure you fight through, because it's another black baby on the streets that's dead, another family, another group of friends, you know. And that's what I think sometimes also people forget, is how many people this impacts. There's no such thing as somebody who someone does not give a shit about. Like, I'm sorry. Even that one person you see on the streets every single day begging for change that you don't want anything to do with, that's probably somebody's mama, daughter, son, brother, husband, so on. It's somebody's, or they wouldn't be here, right? But this world is just not equipped to look at people as that, as, hey, you are equal to me because you are a human. We are about equality based off of finances, status, and clout, and so on, so on. Some of it, most of it's superficial, but it's gotten to a point in society where it's dangerous, and it's been dangerous for a long time. And my parents lived through police brutality to young black men and women. I'm living through it, and I know my son's gonna be living through it, and that's just terrible. And for all my white counterpart friends and stuff, I hate that they gotta live through it. Their parents had to live through it, they living through it, and now their kids have to live through it. It's something that it needs to be extinguished across the board. I'm never gonna say we don't or do not need cops. That's not for me to decide. It's not for any of us to decide, because I'm not protecting somebody else's stuff. But I am always going to be in favor for finally combing through these jurisdictions as much as we possibly can, to make sure that things are being handled the right way, so that we don't see terrible things like this. So I'm not going to get into all the politics. I'm not going to get into all the whys and the why nots, because this is a record that keeps playing over and over and over again, that someone just will not take off. So I just want to say to all the young brothers and sisters out there in this world, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. To all my brown-skinned and tan-skinned, Hispanic, Muslims, and Asian brothers and sisters out there, keep taking care of each other, keep looking out for each other, protect yourselves. And for all my white brothers and sisters out there, keep standing up for what you believe in, and keep fighting your good fights, and keep protecting yourselves and protecting your families, because we are humans and we all have those rights to do so. And it's just sad that it's not set up like that for us. But hey, do your best is all you can, right? So, all right, flip that script and bring it back, and let's get a smile back on our face, because we're back to talking about movies now, right? The reason why I felt this Memphis thing was such a huge thing is because as a child, movies like Higher Learning, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Juice, these movies that I watched as a kid growing up, not only did they let me idolize hip-hop culture or fetishize about New York City and wanting to be up there and wanting to wear Timbs and big hoodie coats and puffy coats and stuff, right? That everybody's complaining about here right now. It also gave me an understanding of what police brutality to young black men had looked like. Because as a child, you hear about it, but I'm on the playground, man. I'm on the baseball, football field, basketball court. I'm not worried about that. But then as I got older, 12, 11, 13, 14, that's when I started to see, oh, what's going on in the movies is actually going on right outside of my front door. And now it's even happening to me. So I think one of the things that we could always do is we could always educate ourselves, or we could always educate the next generation, or we could always just have great conversation. And films like The First Purge, the Crash film that came out early, or was that late 90s, Boys in the Hood, like I said, Do the Right Thing, Fruitvale Station, films like these And then a lot of films from the 60s and 70s, I'm Not Your Negro, things of that nature. These are the types of films that we could be watching or that we could be showing people that could educate them past all the theatrics of the hoopla and looking at the real root of the problem, the systematic problems that young, brown, skinned people face every single day. And we just gotta stop killing people, man. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how terrible somebody might be, and I meet and see and talk to terrible people every day, but that does not mean I'm about to go out and just start shooting everybody. Like, we really got to get some backbone back in the minds and fabrics of the world, because right now I just feel like we're being led by cowards in every single region of the world. And that's why we see as much terrible stuff as what happened to Tyree Nichols and his family. So my condolences. I wish you guys the best. I'm sure the ceremony is going to be beautiful. Lots of love, lots of joy. Like, seriously, man, I'm a Louisiana kid by heart. So, you know, we celebrate these lives regardless on if they're here with us for a long time or for a short time. So I'm celebrating you right now, brother. All right? Big time. Okay? One love. All right. So They Wait in the Dark, all right, is a really strange but very intriguing horror film. And I'm going to talk about that right when I come back, so don't you go nowhere. Need a quick little break real quick. I wanted to roll right into it, but I need to decompress something, and then we'll be right back. So don't go anywhere. Appreciate you guys. Submissions and slashers. So the homie Patrick Rea is one of my favorite independent filmmakers out. He came out with a movie back in the day called Nail Biter that I was a big fan. It was like a movie about tornadoes and werewolves that was like, where did you get this idea from? And I was a super huge fan of Nail Biter. So anytime I see Patrick's name attached to a project, I'm always intrigued, because one thing that Patrick does is he does great storytelling. And he usually uses the neck of the woods that he's coming from. And I've interviewed Patrick before, great guy to talk to. So I'm super excited anytime I see that he's still out there doing his thing. So when I got a chance to see They Wait in the Dark, you know, I kind of allowed myself to really just sit back and let Patrick tell me a story. And that's exactly what he did in the film. So it involves a young lady who clearly is either on the run or something, and she's got her son with her, and they're kind of bumping around, like waking up in gas stations, sleeping in diners and stuff like that. No way to live, right? But the intention is for her to go back to her hometown. So she eventually makes it back to her hometown, and then you do end up finding out that there is somebody after her. Not gonna spoil why. Once you get a chance to see her return to her hometown, then you get to find out more developing stories about the relationship that she had not only with the people from her hometown, but her own family, which was, let's say, a little rocky. Being the child of a person who possibly committed suicide is never ever gonna be any way to live your life. And then trying to raise a child at the same time, you could just imagine what this young woman is going through. But there's definitely something more to play, and whenever she returns back to her childhood home, there's some sinister presence that is not happy she's there. She thinks it might be something else, but when she finds out what's really going on, it's what really allows They Wait in the Dark to become a fascinating story, okay? Acting wise, the cast really was as solid as they possibly could be. You know, substance, I was thinking it would be a little bit more in regards to the depth of the characters, but I will have to give Patrick and those guys some credit for just allowing you to get just enough of a taste of these characters to let the story develop, move at a good pace, and then eventually you find out who these people really are. And it's all in good fashion. Like, you can tell it was something that was done on purpose. So the storytelling aspect of it is great. Scene-wise, there's a couple things that I would have liked to see handled a little differently, but there was really nothing to complain about in regards to the overall view of the film. Now, once you start seeing the scary stuff happening and how you feel about independent productions and their level of what they're able to do to scare people could make or break this film for you. But that's kind of something that comes with the territory with most independent productions. I feel like if you develop or if you engage yourself enough on what's going on in the key moments of the main characters of the film, it's gonna snatch you, grab you, and then really, really make you wait for the great conclusion that it has. It will allow you to really sit back and enjoy it, okay? So I think this film for us, 3 out of 5 stars. While the storytelling was fantastic, there were tons of great surprises throughout the film. The pacing was good, it just was not thick. It was just a little thin throughout the course of the film. These characters could have been anybody. That's what makes the story so great, is that you can kind of put anybody into it. But I feel like the cast themselves, while they did a solid job, they could have really brought more out of the characters in this film. But overall, super solid enough to make sure you guys take a glance at it. And I, of course, can't wait to see more coming from Patrick, because he's still out there putting out solid work, okay? So that is my review for They Wait in the Dark. It was gonna be available this weekend for you to see on demand. So my review is up right now for you to check on IMDb and hmuncut.com. That's our website for Horror Movies Uncut. When we return, we will be wrapping up the show like we always do by giving you one more review. This review is going to be out for the movie Baby Ruby, that's out this week. And then we're going to give you another update of what else will be out this week. There's a little film that we talked about for the past couple weeks that they're both out now, and you want to make sure you know. So we'll be back to wrap up episode number 38 of the Submissions and Slashers podcast. Don't you go anywhere. We'll be back. Okay, folks, we're here to wrap up the show, talk about the film that is going to be out this week, Baby Ruby, okay? So IFC Midnight is going to be dropping this out for you guys to see. It's picked up by Magnolia, so Magnet Releasing will be actually dropping this film out. Sorry about that, had that backwards. Film is directed by Bess Wall, stars Nomale Merlant, Kit Harington, Meredith Hagner, and what's the gentleman's name? Reed Birney. Yeah, Dr. Rosenbaum. That's who that guy is. I've seen him in a couple things. Okay, so I just posted a review for this yesterday. It's got a lot of things that I think a lot of people will enjoy. It got a big Rosemary's Babies vibe to it. But it's kind of like a more of an updated version. The story follows a young girl who is kind of doing what I do. She's a vlogger, influencer, and you know, her entire world is online, so everybody knows about her. But what they don't know is that she's just had a kid, and she hasn't really been posting anything about it or mentioning anything about it because the kid has been kind of difficult. Baby Ruby has been very difficult from the minute she's been born. The kid does not get any better as time goes on, which really starts to put a strain on Joe, which is the main character. Not only is it starting to affect her relationship with her husband and this new child, but it's also starting to affect her relationship with her audience that's waiting on her, you know, to continue her influencing, vlogging, and all that stuff. She runs into a group of girls, and this is when it really kind of kicks into that like Stepford Wives, Rosemary Baby type vibe. Don't Worry Darling is something that I think you can add to that mix now, because they have that vibe too, where the girls are way too nice and way too wanting to be involved in her life and the child's life and stuff like that. And it starts to grab into a lot of paranoias and fears that I think a lot of young ladies have. Now, I will say in my review, I really touched base on the kind of millennial parenting issue that I feel is being represented here, where there's a sacrifice that has to be made that I think a lot of young people in every single generation has had to make, and this is just new for this generation. They're spending a lot of times on their phones, they're making money off of their phones, they're doing what I'm doing right now, which is constantly in front of a screen. but yet they're also supposed to be a parent trying to keep kids away from screens and keep kids engaged in activities and so on and so on. So we've created this parenting system where you get parents who are 100% invested in their kids, or parents who are just like, how many babysitters can I find for the kids? And that's something that's been going on for a very, very long time. It's just the first time that you've got these young women who are like 24-hour hustlers. Like, you know, you've had the women who've done hair, babysat, sold weed, all out of the same house, right? Well, you take that to the next level now, because now they got cash apps, they got vlogs, they got OnlyFans pages, they got all types of stuff that they're making money 24/7 off of. So they are hustlers. So being a hustler and being a mom presents new challenges. And I think the question that Bess is asking everyone in this film is, are these young ladies really ready to accept these new challenges? One of the things about the film is it's very hard to watch, only because the baby is fucking annoying. I had to turn down the volume a couple times just to be able to say, all right, let me dig back into it. But I think it does speak volumes to this generation and the ones right after, on how when you want something. I was just talking to one of my clients about sacrifice in the gym today, because we're Valkyrie fitness clients, and Valkyries are known about their ultimate sacrifice. To be able to get something as great as having a kid, sometimes you have to sacrifice even the things that you have built yourself. It's supposed to be worth it because it's supposed to show progress, right? And I think these are some of the underlying things that you're gonna find out in Baby Ruby, which doesn't necessarily make the movie too scary. It's definitely more of a thriller, but there's enough creepiness in it to make you think that there's something really, really erratic going on. But I think once you find the conclusion of the film, you're gonna be more than satisfied with what Bess and crew were trying to present to you. It's a very smart movie, hard to watch, but very, very well done, very, very smart. We gave it a 2.5 out of 5, only primarily because it's kind of one of those films where I feel like they could have got to the point a lot faster, and certain things got dragged on to emphasize a point that didn't need to continue to be emphasized. But a lot of people are gonna, I think, enjoy it, and it should do well once it hits these home markets this week, okay? What else is coming out this week? So a couple of other movies that I've been already talking to you guys about, already gave reviews out that are coming out this week. Knock at the Cabin in theaters starting tomorrow. And then of course, Skinamarink is gonna be now hitting Shudder also, okay? Yesterday, Next Exit and Blood hit your on-demand VOD and DVD circuits. Next Exit is about two people who are in this like suicide club that are driving away to go finish their last suicide or something. It wasn't bad, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It was kind of slow. Blood is still a movie that I need to watch. I've been talking about that the past couple days. Arthur Malediction will be on VOD February, Friday the 3rd. And then Viking Wolf also is going to be making its debut on Netflix. And is this Project Viking Wolf? Hold on for a second. I need to do a little bit more research sometimes into this stuff. Oh no, this is okay. This is not Project Viking. This is actually Viking Wolf. Okay. So, but Project Wolf Hunting is what I'm talking about. And that's great. And that's already out and available to see. All right, people, that's all we got. We are out of here. You guys have a lovely rest of the week. We will see you next time. We got more movies to talk about. Some of the films that I just mentioned, we'll have some reviews for those. We'll have some updates on some more things. You guys, please take care of each other. Rest in peace, Tyree Nickel. I am out. Travis, Horror Movies Uncut, Submissions and Slashers Podcast. Hit all the subscribe buttons. Make sure you follow us at HMUNCUT. It looks like Human Cut. That is us. When you see it, you click that follow, click that subscribe. We'll see you next time, folks. Have a great rest of your day. Welcome to February.